Joining me now, Corey Lewandowski. Corey, former campaign manager, Trump for President, New York Times bestseller, Let Trump Be Trump and Trump's Enemies. Get them on my website. Just go to johnfredericks.com. They're right there. You can order them from your favorite bookstore. One click does it all. Corey has launched a political action committee, an exploratory committee, Stand With Corey, as he is evaluating a race for the U.S. Senate in New Hampshire. We predict that he will get in, and when he gets in, he will win and be the next senator from New Hampshire. We're looking forward to that, and he's with us now. Corey Lewandowski, great to have you, man.
Good morning, John. Great to be back with you today.
Okay, lots to talk about. Let's start with your budding Senate race, your political action committee that you started. A lot of heavy hitters involved in that. Marty Obst and many others. I know you've raised some money with that, raised your profile, financial disclosures of your primary opponents coming out. Where are we on the Lewandowski for U.S. Senate race?
Well, John, as I've said many times, I'm waiting to see how much money the declared candidates in the U.S. Senate race can put up on the board at the end of the third quarter. Their numbers have not been posted yet, but I'm anxious to see them because it takes resources to compete and to knock off a two-term U.S. Senator, which Jeanne Shaheen, the incumbent in New Hampshire, is. So that's part of it. The second part of it, obviously, there are a number of people around the country who want to see me get into this race. And so Marty Oakes and John Brabender and Mike Biondo, some great political operatives, have started a website called standwithcorey.com, standwithcorey.com. And that's where you can go and sign up. And, you know, if you want me to run, it's a place to show your encouragement if you want to make a donation. Look, I'm not part of it. They are running that, but they're doing it really to try and encourage me to get into this race. Tens of thousands of people have signed up. They've been raising money. And, look, it's going to take money to win this race. I did a big, massive rally in Manchester yesterday, kind of spur of the moment. We turned out about 250 people up in Manchester, New Hampshire, to push back on the fake impeachment narrative and to call out Jeanne Shaheen for supporting funding for sanctuary cities and to hold the entire New Hampshire delegation, 2 Democrat congressmen, 2 Democrat U.S. senators, accountable for trying to impeach a duly elected president. So, look, I've got enormous support in the state of New Hampshire right now. And I believe if I get in this race, not only is Donald Trump going to win New Hampshire and be reelected president of the United States, I'll be the next U.S. Senator from New Hampshire.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. If you get in, you're going to win, and the president is going to carry New Hampshire. Tell me about your press conference yesterday, pushing back all the Democrats in New Hampshire playing footsie with this impeachment inquiry. The president saying, look, nobody's going to testify. We're giving you nothing until you have a legitimate hearing. What's your position on that, Corey?
John, not only do the Democrats not want to have a legitimate hearing, they don't even want to establish the well-known protocols as it relates to beginning an impeachment process of a president of the United States, which is having a floor vote by the House of Representatives to hold those members accountable for their actions. They have taken this process outside of the House Judiciary Committee chaired by Chairman Nadler, but I think partially because of my performance in front of that committee that reiterated to the American people that this was all just a scam, all just a political game. This really was never about finding anything that the president did wrong because he didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And they've moved it into the House Intelligence Committee, which can operate in secrecy, which operates behind closed doors, which is chaired by Congressman Adam Schiff from California, who we know through his past statements have just blatantly lied to the American people. You remember when he said there has been clear evidence of collusion with foreign governments? He's seen it. It's been clear, only to prove himself wrong. Remember when he said it was a parody when he was reading the transcript of the president's phone call with Zelensky of the Ukraine, and he said, oh, this was meant as a joke? It's not a joke. He only said those things and apologized after he's been called out, but he is Nancy Pelosi's chosen one to head up this impeachment process, move it to the House Judiciary Committee for a formal vote there. We need to hold these Democrats accountable because this president has not committed one crime. He's not fractured one violation of the law. They have nothing to hang their hat on, and there will be a huge backlash in 2020 because of this Democrat overreach. Look at the polling data out in the last 2 days. The president's poll numbers have improved 9 points amongst independents in the last 2 days.
That's the key number. He's also, the Democrats and fake newsers get out there. They release a poll the other day and they say, African Americans are against the president. Overwhelming numbers, 85% say they're going to back any Democratic candidate over him. What they didn't say in the same poll, Corey, is that 15% of blacks right now are going to vote for Trump over any Democratic candidate. 15%. If Trump gets 15% of the African American vote, he wins in a landslide.
John, you're exactly right. Look, Donald Trump received 6% of the African American vote in 2016. The last president to break double digits in the African American vote category was Bob Dole in 1996. He got 12%. Okay? Don't forget, Mitt Romney got 3% and John McCain got 2%. So if Donald Trump receives 15% of the African American vote, and by the way, if you're African American, why wouldn't you support Donald Trump? There are more African Americans working today than ever before. There are more economic opportunities for African Americans than ever before. He has passed a criminal justice reform program which had disproportionately impacted African Americans who are sitting in jail. Okay? So he's giving you every reason to vote for him if you're African American. And so if Donald Trump receives 15% of that cohort of the electorate, then guess what? That means he continues to win Michigan. He puts places like Maryland all of a sudden in play, and the Democrats have zero, and I mean zero opportunity to win back the White House if the African-American population is voting for Donald Trump in the next election by greater than 10%.
Corey, let's also get to the Hispanic vote right now. In multiple surveys that have come out with Hispanics, the president's approval rating over 50%. How do you respond to that?
John, I go back to the historical perspective where Donald Trump got 33% of the Hispanic vote in 2016. His numbers are only improving, and it's a very similar reason to why African-American numbers have improved for Donald Trump, because of the fact that they have more economic opportunity today, just like everybody else. Every demographic of the country wants to make sure that they are more financially secure today than they were yesterday, that they have more economic opportunity for their families. And that's what the Hispanic Americans have seen. That's what the African Americans have seen. That's what women have seen. That's what every person in the middle class has seen. So if you go and ask yourself the very basic question, am I better off today than I was 3 years ago when Donald Trump ran for office? By every economic indicator, the answer is yes. You have more money in your retirement plan. You have more job opportunities in front of you. You have more job security. You have more upward mobility. And because of that, and the Democrats have taken advantage of specific demographics in the electorate for 30 years and never delivered for them. Right. I think that's why you see these people saying, hey, we like a fighter. We want someone who's making our lives better. We're going to return Donald Trump to the White House.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Corey Lewandowski. We expect him to formally announce his candidacy for the U.S. Senate in New Hampshire in the next coming weeks. That's our prediction. Corey, also the former campaign manager for Trump for president. Corey, a central witness in the House Democrats' impeachment inquiry into the president says he's refusing to appear for a Tuesday deposition under orders from the State Department. This was Gordon Sondland, Trump's ambassador to the European Union, and he was expected to testify next week. He says he's out, and he just says he's not going to do that. What is your reaction to that?
John, I think that's the right thing because, look, the House and the Senate are co-equal branches of the government. What we are seeing and what we saw with Ambassador Volker, who was a special envoy to the Ukraine, they didn't want to have that in public. They have still not released the transcript of his deposition because it proved that there was no quid pro quo. So these individuals in Congress, and specifically the House of Representatives, are so disingenuous that they want to hold these hearings in secrecy, leak specific components of their testimony that is most advantageous to them, not allow the American people to see it, not release the full transcripts. So if we're going to have a hearing, particularly an impeachment hearing, then we should make sure that it is open and available for the entire American electorate to view what's really transpiring. And if they're not willing to do that, then I stand with the administration that says we're not going to come and recognize your subpoenas.
And like what the president said is, we'll cooperate once you have a hearing, once you have a vote and a legitimate hearing. What you've got right now is a sideshow, a political circus. And one of the problems that Democrats have with the hearing is not only they have to go on the record, but then Republicans have subpoena power of their own, right?
That's exactly right. And the reason you've articulated so clearly, John, the Democrats don't want to have a hearing is because it now gives the minority and the Republicans in that minority the opportunity to issue their own subpoenas, to call their own witnesses, to have these hearings in a much more public format. They don't want to do that because what we learned about the Mueller investigation was that the Democrats had held out for 2 years that the Mueller investigation was going to come out and say collusion, 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 obstruction, obstruction, obstruction. And when the report didn't say that, they were caught flat-footed. And now they have to, and we've seen this now. Representative Green has said that the only way to beat Donald Trump is to impeach him. We know that that's their true agenda because he won't be beat at the ballot box. They don't want to have a vote because then the Republicans could have subpoena power. They don't want to give them that right. They want to do this in secrecy. The American people are too smart for this, John. They know that this is a witch hunt. They know the president didn't do anything wrong. And because of that, you will see that recourse in November of 2020 when Nancy Pelosi becomes the minority leader, if she can hold her position. If not, maybe it's AOC or Rashid Tlaib who's really running the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives right now.
Let's get to the Syrian situation. Look, Corey, you and I were on the campaign trail from the beginning. You turned the lights on in the Trump campaign January 2nd, 2015. One of the reasons that both of us were attracted to the president is because he means what he says and he says what he does. He was the one Republican candidate breaking with the neocons, breaking with the warmongers, and said, if you elect me president, I'm going to get the United States out of these endless wars, get our kids home, stop the body bags, stop the warmonger machine. Now he's in Syria. He says we're getting out of this conflict. We're not going to get involved with the Erdogan offensive there. That's his business. For a 24-month period, he was able to jawbone Erdogan out of it. But now he's going forward with it. And the president said, look, I'm getting out. The swamp has gone ballistic over it. Republicans have criticized him. If you're in the U.S. Senate right now, would you back the president's move to get the United States troops out of northern Syria?
John, let me just remind your listeners of something. My grandfather served in World War II, my father in Vietnam, and my brother served as a 23-year active duty Marine. The president's number one mission, in my opinion, is to make sure that our men and women who put that American flag on their sleeve or on their chest in uniform to protect this country come home safely. And if we don't have the reason to have our troops forward deployed in those places, they belong on U.S. soil, in my opinion. That's what I believe. And look, I don't have all of the information that the president has. And what we have seen too many times from members of Congress who don't have the same information, they don't have the same intelligence briefings, come out and say things only to walk them back after. Do I believe that we need a QRF or a quick reactionary force in certain locations? You bet I do. Do I think our special forces, who are the greatest in the world, should be in specific locations? You bet I do. Do I think that the men and women of the United States military should be the police force of the world? Absolutely not. We've got troops in 100 countries around the world, John, and that'd be great if we didn't have our own problems at home. We've got a southern border, which is more porous than probably any border in our nation's history. We've got crime in cities like Chicago and New York where people are being murdered by people who have illegal guns that have, it's shameful you can't walk down the streets of Chicago. And so I question what our military force is doing in certain regions of the world, certain places of the world. That's not to say we don't want to help our allies. Of course we do. But our primary mission, and I know the globalists are going to hate this, this is about putting America first. It's about doing what's best for America first. And I don't have the briefings the president has. But if his briefings indicate and have told him that there is an opportunity to bring American troops home, I support that. But you have to remember, the military-industrial complex, the people at the Pentagon, those lobbyists who work for the giant corporations, they make an enormous and very, very good living, making sure that we continue wars around the world, making sure we have our men and women forward deployed, making sure we're selling more missiles, more guns, more weapons to other countries and other places. They make a lot of money. It's a multi-trillion-dollar-a-year operation. And this president came to Washington, D.C. to bring fundamental change. And when you look at where our troops have been deployed, think of Afghanistan. We've been in Afghanistan for almost 18 years with no exit strategy. When Donald Trump ran for office, he said we're going to bring our men and women home. We've lost more American lives in Afghanistan than anyone can even remember, and it's shameful. You know, I was in Manchester, New Hampshire yesterday doing a rally, and a family came up to me, and they came in from Florida, and I said, hey, just so you know, we lost our son over in Afghanistan. They had a picture of his face on their T-shirts, and they said, please tell the president to bring our boys and our women home who wear the uniform. That's where they belong. And, John, I can't even comprehend what it would be like to lose a son or a daughter in uniform in a place where we don't belong.
Well, this is what the president campaigned on, Corey, and it is amazing to me whenever the president actually follows through in a campaign promise, the establishment, Washington bureaucracy is beside themselves. Like, they can't believe he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. And look, both of us spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. We know what the swamp is, and we know the warmonger machine, like you say. They make millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars off these wars. That's why they don't want us out. That's why they always want us to go into these conflicts. And I was saying earlier on the radio, you turn the TV on today, you put on CNN, MSNBC, any cable, Fox is going to have all the ex-brigadier generals, all the ex-colonels all coming on, all getting paid by the cable networks, giving commentary on these wars. We just need to stop it, and I think the president made the right decision, no question about it. Corey, let's get to politics a moment. There's supposed to be a rally in Minneapolis at the Target Center. And so the left-wing Minneapolis mayor says the Target Center has to charge the Trump campaign $530,000 for security in order to stop the rally. Obama had the same rally there, and it cost $20,000. How does it go from $20,000 to $500,000 in 8 years? How's that happen for security?
John, it's very easy, right? The mayor, the left-wing mayor, knows that when Donald Trump comes to his town to hold a rally at the Target Center on Thursday, this place is going to be packed to the gills. There's going to be lines outside the door, and he is so afraid that Minnesota is going to turn, because it almost turned in 2016, and support Donald Trump for the presidential election, that this is what we call in the business a shakedown. That's what this is. This is a shakedown to go and charge the Trump campaign $500,000 or more to do the exact same thing that they did for Obama. But it doesn't matter, John, because, again, these people are going to show up. This only heightens the controversy around the event. It makes the ticket harder to get. It makes the event harder to be at. And this guy is doing himself and the people a disservice. Look, if the campaign, which I'm sure they did, secured the facility like everybody else did, and this mayor is now charging an exorbitant price, which they don't charge anybody else, I call that extortion. It's probably a violation of the law somewhere.
Totally.
This is a political shakedown. So let's go and file a grievance with the courts that this guy is trying to shake down the campaign. Shaking down a political campaign could be considered interference in an election. Maybe this is an FEC violation. I don't know how many laws have been fractured here, but my guess is when you shake down a political opponent for monetary benefit, that could have some ramifications on the back end. Trump is still going to be there in Minnesota. He's going to only highlight the hypocrisy, and he's going to turn the state of Minnesota to his column in 2020.
Crackpot mayor, the leftist mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. I mean, I just can't believe this. He's saying he's telling the campaign they have to pay $530,000 in security costs for the event. And again, I mean, if that's the cost, okay, you can break it down. But cops in Minneapolis estimated that the costs were around $20,000, and that's what they charged the Obama campaign 8 years ago. So Obama gets charged $20,000, Trump campaign gets charged $530,000. What the hell kind of a deal is this? Look, Corey, all this stuff, right, it is just going to make this ticket even more difficult to get. This place is going to be packed when they figure it out. But this is basically what the Democrats are doing. They can't win, so they have to exert to all this other stuff. Ridiculous.
John, we've seen it now. So they tried to change the rules, right? Let's pack the Supreme Court because we don't like Trump's appointees. Let's change the Electoral College because we know we can't win anymore. Let's charge the campaign, 100 times what we charged Obama because we don't like Trump. Can you imagine for 1 second if a conservative city, if there was one left in the country, wanted to have a rally for a Democrat, and the mayor said, hey, by the way, it's 100 times what the Republican paid here a year ago? It'd be front page news. Every media outlet in the country would be covering it, and the mayor would probably be run out of office on a rail. But because it's for the Democrats, it's okay to change the rules and go after this president. People are tired of it.
Unbelievable. More information, you want to go to standwithcorey.com, standwithcorey.com. Hey, Corey, thanks for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Hey, good luck to your son in the baseball tournament.
All right, standwithcorey.com.